Hello, and welcome to the Digital Edge. My name is Mr. Sam Otero, and today, in focus, education. Specifically, we are going to be talking NOCTI. We're going to be talking about this specialized, focused exam and how it's being implemented and worked at a local level with my special guests in studio, Missy Mowry, Jeff Tech Vocational Supervisor, and Mr. Steve Walk, Educational Consultant.
Missy, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
And Mr. Steve Walk, Educational Consultant, and he's going to explain to us a little bit about how he fits into this process. Steve, thank you for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you, Sam. I'm a retired director with 36 years experience in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm an educational consultant with the Pennsylvania Association of Vocational Administrators. Also, the Jeff Tech is one of my schools with a technical assistance program.
Very good. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that later in the show, and we're going to find out a little bit more what's happening on the career and technical side of things within our building here with Missy Mowry on how we are addressing state concerns as well as national concerns after we hear from a very special guest joining us via video feed, Dr. John Foster, President of NOCTI, joining us via our virtual classroom technologies. And he's coming to us from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Dr. Foster, welcome to the Digital Edge. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm here in Carlisle in South Central PA, not too far from you.
Well, a few hours away. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and enlightening us on what is happening with NOCTI. Let's start with you, Dr. Foster. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background with NOCTI, and describe to us what NOCTI is. First off, a lot of our viewers watching this, they may not even be aware that there is such a national standardized test that is gearing students up for professional certification. What does this mean to the career and technical student in America today? Dr. Foster, you have the floor.
Thanks. NOCTI's been around since the mid-'60s, and we were actually put on the face of the earth to check to see that coming into career and technical education programs had all aspects of the industry covered. And as far as my own background, I actually took the NOCTI test several years ago. I won't tell you when, but I was a construction teacher many years ago before moving into career and technical administration, and then I also worked for Penn State for a few years before moving into the position of state director for career and technical education. I served in that capacity for about governor's worth, and then moved to NOCTI as their CEO about 9 years ago. And NOCTI, by the way, we dropped the words that the acronym stands for, but it used to stand for National Occupational Competency Testing Institute. And the reason we dropped it was just too hard to say.
Well, as I said, I really appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to join us and enlighten our audience as to what NOCTI is doing at a national level. And working with the states in particular, within Pennsylvania, we know there are some innovative things that are happening here with your integration and working with PDE. Tell us a little bit about what's happening at that level with our friends at the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Well, let me start with the national level. In the last several years, NOCTI has done, I guess, three things that we innovative. One is we focused very strongly on the huge database of reports and things like that. You hear an awful lot about big data in the media today, and we have big data. In other words, we have, in the case of Pennsylvania, we have data that we've collected from student scores, not student names, but student scores, and Pennsylvania technical competence for probably over 20 years. So we can take a given program at a given school, and we can take a look to see if that program is improving or not improving, and maybe start to make some guesses as to why that is. So one thing would be the focus on data-driven improvement, and the focus on professional development. The second thing would be trying to give the students in Pennsylvania and across the country as much information for their assessment as they possibly can get. We've been actively trying to partner with different industry associations. We are tied closely with the American Culinary Federation, with the National Home Builders Institute, the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, and quite a few others. But in addition to that, a few years ago, we had a connection with the National College Credit Recommendation Service. And essentially what they do is they evaluate our standards and our assessments, and they arrive at a college credit recommendation. That college credit recommendation is good for 1,500 colleges and universities across the country. The credit recommendation varies based on the occupational area, but it's anywhere from 2 to 6 credits if you score at a 70% on the written portion of the NOCTI exam, and that's for all of our exams. And we're moving that into some of our industry partner exams as well. And then the third thing that I'd mention is kind of tied to that a bit. It's our focus on open badges. Some folks call them digital badges. It goes by a number of different names, but badging, I guess you could kind of think of it as a digital merit badge, but a badge is much more than that. It's deeper. It's a third dimension. So when you earn a badge, not only do you earn a graphical icon, but the data as to why you earned a particular badge travels with that icon and can be displayed in a number of different places. So an employer could look at a student's badge in, say, safety, or in hygiene, or almost any number of things. So we're running a pilot right now in Pennsylvania, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Actually, we're running a national pilot. It's in 5 states. But again, we can talk about that later.
Dr. Foster, if you would, before we continue and go too much further with a lot of the details of the NOCTI program, let's take it back to basics here, because I think maybe we know what all this is, but perhaps a parent watching on local television, local cable TV, or watching via the internet, that may be considering sending their student to a career and technical school, they may not even be aware of exactly what the NOCTI exams are and how they work. Can you bring this down to layman's terms for us and explain exactly what these tests are and how they work within the career and technical framework?
Sure. Pennsylvania has been a very special partner with NOCTI, and I say that for a lot of reasons, but one of them is we've been doing student testing in Pennsylvania for roughly 20 years. And the reason we're doing student testing is because the legislature of Pennsylvania at the time saw that there was a focus on regular education testing, your maths, your sciences, your English, those kinds of things. And they thought it was important to give technical students the same opportunity. So they wanted a high-stakes, industry-based assessment for technical students, and this has been ongoing for a number of years. So in the state of Pennsylvania, we are that technical assessment. It's on a par with the Keystone exams now and the Common Core as it evolves in the state. So we're the side that takes care of the technical students. To give you a little bit of background on the assessment itself, it's a national industry-based assessment. It's derived based on the Department of Labor's standards and then any non-proprietary industry association standards that merge into that. And then it's reviewed by 5 to 7 subject matter experts every 3 to 4 years to make sure the assessment and the content is current with industry standards. And then in Pennsylvania's case, they also set what's called a criterion reference score. And a criterion reference score is just it's kind of a line in the sand. It's kind of a cut score. And it's a score that industry expects students to be able to meet to be minimally competent in that particular field. That cut score, an additional 10 to 15 industry experts in the state of Pennsylvania. So this assessment is current. It's based on Pennsylvania employers, and it's the test that's mandated for use within the state.
Dr. Foster, I believe our vocational supervisor, Ms. Maurer here, has a question for you regarding our POS system here in PA.
Well, I know that PD's been working with NOCTI to develop some assessments that are based on our state's programs of study. How exactly is that working?
Well, the difference is that the position or the process I kind of just described with national experts. Instead of using national experts, essentially what we do is we look at Pennsylvania experts. So where we may use, on the national test, we may use someone from Oregon and someone from Florida and someone from Pennsylvania and someone from Maine and somebody from Illinois. In the state of Pennsylvania, we narrow that down to be, east, west, south, central segments of Pennsylvania, and a good representation of the employment and the education community as well. So that's essentially the difference. And the other piece is that it is focused on Pennsylvania's program of study. So it's Pennsylvania's program of study established by Pennsylvania employers, experts in their field.
Thank you. Dr. Foster, let's talk about that data that you referred to. I mean, everything today's age, data-driven. Let's talk a little bit about what NOCTI is doing to work directly with schools and we'll probably bring Steve Walk into this discussion here, but let's start with you, Dr. Foster, from the NOCTI standpoint. What are you folks doing to educate schools on how to most effectively use the data that you referred to earlier in the show?
Well, we work through test coordinators at each one of the schools in Pennsylvania and, again, around the country. But what we've been trying to do lately is to establish a closer connection with the actual teachers themselves. So we have a teacher's corner on our website, and it has, I think, about 900 or so teachers right now. And on that website, we provide all sorts of resources for the teacher geared to NOCTI assessments, how to set them up, how to use study guides, how to access reports, all those kinds of nitty details that instructional folks to improve the competency of their students. In addition, we've done some things with our reports themselves. The task level reports are free to test coordinators who share them then with the individual teachers. These reports provide very granular detail about strong areas of competence and areas that may need improvement. And in Pennsylvania, a number of the schools are using pre-test, post-test, so it gives students, gives administrators, teachers, and students an opportunity to look at where a student comes into the program and how far they can improve throughout the duration of the program.
And I have to say, as a teacher who, I mean, you know what it's like. You get absolutely inundated with the bureaucracy, the day-to-day workings of working within the system and the paperwork and the forms. And I was very skeptical when we started this process with the CTED process when Steve came in and said, okay, we're going to help you get your NOCTI scores up. And I'm, oh my gosh, data. And I have to admit, I really do. We crafted the plan. We followed the plan with your direction. And the results that I know I've achieved just in the past 2 months have been phenomenal, and I have absolutely no doubt that it worked. Steve, would you like to go ahead and chime in a little bit on what is happening at a local level and what you're seeing happening in the schools as you're working with PD and NOCTI to use this data most effectively?
Right. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that the NOCTI is able to give us immediate feedback on these task level reports that Dr. Foster talked about. And what that would indicate, or what would mean for the teacher and the classroom teacher, they can actually take these task level reports that are aligned to the program of study and identify their strengths and the weaknesses within the content area and be able to make some adjustments so that the students that are coming to the career and technical schools are getting the latest technology at a level that would assure success when they take the NOCTI exam at the end of their senior year. Mm-hmm. So I know as a former classroom teacher, we did not have that immediate turnabout, and the ability to look at each individual task or competency in the past like we do today. So you're reaping the benefits of the work of PDE and NOCTI combined.
Outstanding. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and take a look at our program here in the IT Academy, in the Digital Media program. Give you a little bit of an understanding as to what we do and why we produce the Digital Edge and how we do it. My kids behind the scenes here, say hey guys.
Hi.
Hey!
Hey.
Jade's taking pictures for PR. We're going to send this off to NOCTI, and Lexi over here is taking some video, and you're hopefully getting a behind-the-scenes view of the students producing the show for us. You're watching the Digital Edge, coming to you from Jefferson County Du Bois ABTS, better known as Jeff Tech, in the realm of central Pennsylvania. We are talking NOCTI today. This is a special educational version of the show, and our special guest, Dr. John Foster, president of NOCTI, along with Steve Walk, educational consultant, and Missy Mowry, vocational supervisor here at Jeff Tech. Now, Mr. Otero, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with our discussion furthering the advancement of career and technical education. We're talking NOCTI on the Digital Edge.
Looking for a great career in high technology? Whether you want to start your own business or go on to college, the Digital Media Technology program at Jeff Tech offers the most advanced training and studio available in our region. Learn audio and video production, live web streaming, 3D animation and special effects, graphic and web design using pro software, Photoshop, Fireworks, Dreamweaver, and After Effects, InDesign, Premiere, Wirecast, and much more. Full-time and part-time enrollment options are available for high school students and even adults in our area.
These situations that I've seen here at Jeff Tech are purely hitting the college level. I mean, you know, there are people who are waiting 4 years out of high school to go into 4 years of college to do the same things that the students here are doing right now. And so, needless to say, you want the jump start, this is the place to be.
Explore the Digital Media Technology program in the IT Academy at Jeff Tech. A whole new world of opportunity awaits you. Visit us online, dmtstudio.net.
Going to schools such as Jeff Tech, I think, gives you a good foundation and opportunities that otherwise you wouldn't think of doing.
Parents know the value of an education that works.
I think if you look at salaries and you look at earning potential, management jobs, getting out of Jeff Tech, you already have a jump start. You're in demand. You can start earning money faster. It's like the turtle and the hare. I mean, you're the hare, baby, and you're ready to roll.
Take a video tour online at jefftech.us.
In the last several years, NOCTI has done, I guess three things. One is we focus very strongly on the database.
And welcome back to the Digital Edge. My name is Mr. Otero, and today we are talking NOCTI on our special educational version of the Digital Edge TV show produced by the students of the Digital Media Technology program in the IT Academy at Jeff Tech in Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania. What is NOCTI? How does it work? How does national legislation tie into the standards that are being implemented across the states and for the benefit of the career and technical student in today's schools? This is what we're learning about. And joining us via video feed, Dr. John Foster, president of NOCTI, and here in the studio with me, special guest Steve Walk, educational consultant, and my boss, Missy Mowry, vocational supervisor here at Jeff Tech. Steve, let's start with you, and Missy, have you join the conversation here. Let's talk about CTED. We talked about this a little bit, the program that was implemented in the fall to help instructors get their, identify certain areas of weakness for their students from previous years, utilize the data efficiently and effectively to get their students up to where they need to be this year. Tell us about what's happening with CTED, not because you don't just work with Jeff Tech, you're working with other schools in the region as well. And then, Missy, I'd like to hear from you a little bit about your experience with this process and your thoughts on it and the response from your teachers.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Okay, well, Sam, this is actually the second year that Jeff Tech's involved with the CTED program, which is a branch from NOCTI, and I think Dr. Foster will talk a little bit more specifically about that here in a couple minutes. But you've outlined it quite well. We've taken 3 teachers in this building this year, sat down with them early on that they could identify. They looked at the data and they've identified strengths within their program based on NOCTI data, and they've also taken a look at one or two areas that, well, I'll call it weaknesses or gaps, if you will, that they need to strengthen, and they put together a simple plan whereby this school year they're going to work specifically within the confines of the goals and objectives to bring their students' scores up so that the percentage of students that are deemed successful in the programs
And this addresses both written and the hands-on, if need be.
It could,
Yeah.
yes, it could. We've kind of identified more on the written part of the exam, because when Dr. Foster talked about pre-test, post-test, it was just the written component of the NOCTI exam. So we're kind of zeroing in on those particular areas. So I'm overseeing that particular activity along with Mrs. Mallory.
Now that's what's happening here at Jeff Tech. What's it like out in the field dealing with the other schools?
Well, I have one other school that's involved in the CTED. There were just select schools in the state of Pennsylvania that were put on the under the CTED umbrella, and they're doing the same thing. The process is the same in both schools, and teachers becoming more and more excited about the program, and the theory is that this nucleus of teachers, in this case 3 of them at this school, will be able to go out and work with other teachers in the school to advance the CTED concept, if you will.
That's great. Now, Missy Mallory, you're new in your position, been here for going on a year now.
Just a little over a year.
So a lot of changes happening at a local level, a lot to digest, but you're coming from a career technical teaching position over in the Clearfield marketplace and coming over the mountain, as they say now, to Jeff Tech. Tell us about your experience here and your thoughts on the CTED initiative, and what kind of response did you get from your teachers?
Well, this year was the first year I actually worked with the CTED program as an administrator, so it was new for me in that aspect. It was interesting to learn the data analysis and looking at the different types of data that we use to come up with a plan for our students to improve their scores. I took that information and tweaked it a little bit and asked all of our career and tech ed instructors to look at their pretest scores, look at the areas where each student is low, come up with a plan on how they're going to help the students, and many of the instructors did it individually, and they've been working with them so far. So the results will tell us if we're successful or not. Our written tests are April 16th and 17th, and our hands-on exams are May 1st this year at Jeff Tech. So,
and what if from a instructor and administrator relationship, did you find the instructors right out of the gate embracing this approach to the data analysis and the use of the data and the crafting of the plan? Did you find resistance at that local level? And has that attitude changed then since they've moved along this process? We're getting into NOCTI season now. Are you finding more of a buy-in? What happened at the beginning, and where are you now?
I think all of our teachers want their students to be successful.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
And when you say data analysis, it sounds kind of scary, a lot of extra time in the work, in the evenings. But once it was described to them, explained to them, and they saw really how easy it is to do, most, if not all, of the teachers, I feel, have embraced it. They're all turned in a plan. I know they've been working with students, so I'm excited to see the results. Hopefully we'll have great results this year, and we'll continue to do it then in the next years to come.
Yeah, it really was. It's just common sense, really. It's just pinpointing the specific tasks and looking at the deficiencies that are there, if they exist, and looking at your curriculum and saying, how can I utilize this particular lesson plan or this particular experience to beef that particular aspect of the task list up? It was a pretty simple process once you got going on it.
Well,
great.
It boils down to that classroom teacher wanting to make change and setting a higher standard for their class, for their students.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Dr. Foster, let's talk about this at a national level. Tell us about the NRC.
Yeah, it's actually the NRCCTE. It's the National Research Center for Career and Technical Education, and every year no problem. Every year under Perkins, Congress puts together a National Research Center, and it moves in different places during each Perkins legislation, and it tries to find out what the interests and the needs are in the entire national career and technical education field, and researchers on those topics. One of the topics turned out to be data-driven improvement. Each year, or each authorization of Perkins, which generally is every 5 years, though sometimes it's extended to 6 and 7, a new research facility is selected. For example, once it was at Ohio State, once it was at Berkeley. The particular year that did the research for CTETI, it was at the University of Louisville. So we worked closely with the University of Louisville. Yeah. We worked closely with the University of Louisville to do about 3 or 4 years worth of research before rolling out this CTETI model. And currently, in addition to Pennsylvania, other states that are participating right now are Maine, Minnesota, and California. So there are teachers going through this same process in those states as well. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood the background, that this is a solid research-based initiative, and that it is very focused on technical education and competencies. It's not a matter of looking at regular education scores, it's a matter of looking at those technical scores which reflect technical competencies and improving those, which in turn hopefully improves the competence of all the students that particular instructor touches. And, I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to mention is that CTETI actually stands for Career and Technical Educators Using Data-Driven Improvement. So that's what the acronym stands for.
Where was I? I think we were discussing yesterday in our OAC meeting, Mrs. Anderson, our guidance counselor, had brought up the use of NOCTI for potentially getting college credits, using that certification to gain college credit. Did I hear that right?
I know that our program, excuse me, I'm tickled my throat. I know that our programs here at the school with the programs of study are aligned to certain colleges, and they've approved if the student is successful in our program of study, passed the NOCTI exam, shown that they are proficient in that area, they will give students free college credits for that. It depends on the school they choose to go to, whether it's a technical school, a four-year university. There's a lot of different schools, and some schools may offer more credits, some schools may offer less. So it's really depending on where you want to go, what you want to do, and the program area that you're in.
Outstanding. Steve, you have anything that you want to add to the conversation along the lines of?
Well, there's a SOAR program in the state of Pennsylvania that the students, the state has articulated with a number of community colleges and universities that if the students graduate from the program and have achieved all the competencies, if you will, or the task on the POS, receive advanced credit. I think at some time today we may want to ask Missy the question, do you have any sense of what your NOCTI scores were in the past? I know you're a new administrator, this may not be a fair question, and what your NOCTI scores were even last year. If you don't know exact numbers, I'm sure you can say they're going in this direction. And Sam, as a classroom teacher, your scores are going in this direction.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm sure.
I know for a fact that they are, Steve, but I don't have exact numbers.
We could get that number. And,
yeah.
But across the state, what I'm seeing is our NOCTI scores are just going like this because of the work that the NOCTI is doing with the state of Pennsylvania and aligning the program of study with the NOCTI exams. So we're being very successful across the state, putting out a better career and technical student as identified by the NOCTI exams.
That's great.
And as a former classroom teacher, I saw it in my own classroom. And I actually helped with one of the subject matter expert groups where we developed a new test that was specific for Pennsylvania and worked through that process. So it's an interesting process to work through. It's lengthy, but it's well worth it, and it helps you understand where they're coming from and what kind of questions that, may or may not be asked in a test and what we're expecting our students to learn. So It's a very interesting process.
Well, this interview has been very interesting. I do hope that our audience at home has found this educational and enlightening. Dr. Foster, I would like to go ahead and wrap up the interview today, and we'll toss it back to you for closing comments or anything else that you feel that we've missed that you want to get out to our viewing audience. Dr. Foster, come. Yeah, the president of NOCTI. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I just want to say we've really enjoyed working with Pennsylvania, and we essentially do assessments, industry-based assessments in every state in the country, and the effort that Pennsylvania has put into improving competency in career and technical education student programs is just outstanding. I use Pennsylvania as a national example every place I go. In fact, I'll be in Minnesota at the end of the week and at the end of next week. And, I'll be mentioning Pennsylvania, and I'll be mentioning the TAP program that Steve mentioned, as well as the CTED program that they're involved in, and the way that they've embraced it in the state. It's just great, and it's been a great relationship. We hope it can for a long time, because we believe that we are improving the technical competence of our students. Really, that's what it's all about.
Joining us on the show today. We greatly appreciate all the work that you're doing, and for your time today and working with my kids to get this all set up and providing this educational opportunity for them. This TV show is a great example of the hands-on learning, a product of high school students within a career and technical program helping to advance the cause of career and technical education, and we appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Foster. Thank you. Very good. Our in-studio guests, Steve Walk and Missy Mowry. Any closing comments or questions for Dr. Foster?
No, but I appreciate being on the show.
Absolutely. It was a good time.
Okay. No. Have a good weekend, Dr. Foster.
Very good.
You too.
All right. Thank you so much. Our production credits go out to our senior here in the morning crew of digital media technology, Hannah Rummel running the board, Madison Seeger running audio for us. We have Sean Knobloch and Jade Steele taking still pictures of behind the scenes, and Lexi Douglas donning the high definition video camera, getting that behind the scenes footage, so keeps the perspective in play here as to how these shows come together in our studio. And of course, Skylar Young running our teleprompter system. Well, that's it for this special education version of the Digital Edge. My name is Mr. Sam Atero. I teach digital media technology at Jefferson County Du Bois AVTS, better known as Jeff Tech, with my special guests, Steve Walk and Missy Mowry. And a special thanks to Dr. John Foster, coming to us via video feed from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Today, talking NOCTI. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time around out on the Digital Edge.